Hi.
Hi.
Okay, I'm going to say hi from now
Okay.
on because as we've been learning and researching and things like that, I realized that, um, you know, as in my book, I'm speaking about vibrations, that I'm saying to you hell and low, and I don't want to say that anymore.
Okay.
So it's kind of a learning a new language.
hmm
Um, but I guess we'll have a conversation about that another time. But what would you like to start with today?
Um, Something that people, and I'm sure well intended, have said to me um, when I talk about my experiences and the impact that it's had on me. Some of the responses I get are people saying, you need to learn to love yourself, or saying it quite really simply, oh, you just need to learn to love yourself. And over the years, that has generated different feelings in me. Initially, a lot of anger. I wanted to sort of like, I didn't, but I wanted to shout back at them. How am I supposed to do that? What does that mean? What? How can I just go start to learn? Oh, all right, then I'll just start to learn to love myself. I love myself. I'll buy myself some flowers. When I absolutely detest who I am and can't stand who I am and want to be somebody different or don't want to exist in this form, how can I just learn to love myself? And over the years, I felt angry. I felt insulted when people have said that. But I don't know when the change has happened. But now, when it's said, I sort of understand what it means, and it's something differently what you've taught me. It's not about just saying, oh, I'm pretty, I'm nice, and I'm intelligent, and I'm a lovely person, and oh, I'll just buy myself some flowers, which is what I thought they meant when they said you just had to start loving yourself. But you've taught me that it's not that.
One of the things that you said in terms of somebody telling you to love yourself, and then it's asking how do you love yourself? And so
Mm,
to ask that, one of the things you said to love yourself is to buy yourself some flowers. Buying yourself flowers isn't loving yourself;
mm,
it's loving the flowers.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what,
So
when I did do things like that, tokenistic gestures, like, oh, I'll do it then. I'll buy myself something nice. Be like, well, I don't feel any different. I still hate myself, but I've got some nice flowers. And
yeah, so it's like people say treat yourself or do something
mm,
like that, and it's like who's the self then who you treating? So when people, it's the same thing for what a lot of people are doing to love themselves is giving themselves objects from the planet. And so when you give yourself an object from the planet to love yourself, say, look out, look at me, loving myself, and I'm saying, like you say, I'm saying I'm beautiful, I'm saying all those things, but I still feel that I'm still the same. I'm still the same person. And so when you're learning to love yourself in the way you've been taught, but it's not correct.
mm,
So it's being yourself, and being yourself is a human being. We're not being human beings because in the hell consciousness. So in the hell consciousness, say like, or it is. So what that means is there's 7 levels of consciousness,
mm,
and the first one is hell. And so if you can cross-reference that with hell is on the left thinkers. A majority of us are left thinkers. So when I was young, you say don't use the intelligence you were born with, but nobody taught me the intelligence I was born with because they weren't using it themselves. And that means using the whole of your brain,
mhm,
but also using the whole of you, which means that we're thinking and we're recording things and we call that learning. It's not. But we're not taught to be the other side of ourselves, which is an energy and a spirit and a being. So we're not being a being, we're not, so we're using energy for things on the left hemisphere, but we're giving energy away a lot. So what I mean by that is you put the energy into doing something to make yourself feel better, so you become more of the human doing rather than the being. So the meaning of human used to be the meaning of it was beast or is beast in the old dictionary. The reason why it was beast is because we're evil, and so if you're brought up in a certain way, so say like you're brought up in a family of criticisers, you're going to learn to criticise. If you're brought up in a family of drug takers, you're more likely to take drugs. If you're brought up in a family who self-harm, you're more likely to self-harm. Well, that's what you're brought up in. So you're brought up in not in a family of that. It's a massive family. It's a society. Society do it. And society, majority of what they'd said in the 50s and 60s, which is worse now, are, 90% are evil. We are evil beings, and that's what we do. We're so ungrateful, and not intentionally. This is what we've been taught. So we're brought up to take drugs. We do. We go to the pharmacy to take drugs. We're brought up to believe in certain things that we believe in. So cult comes from the word culture. So there are many traditions that we follow. My parents said to do this, my parents said to do that. So we end up being really, we're just like parrots. We're repeating what somebody else said, or somebody, oh, that's a good idea, I'll do that. So we're so ungrateful for what we've been given. So we're not using the full hemisphere, which is the right side of the hemisphere is more love. It's more love side, more compassion for yourself, to be the beingness, to use your energy to think for your life, to think about how you want your life to be, to think about how loving it can be, and all of those kind of things. We're thinking from the left is survival, and that's what we're thinking from. So when people want to manifest things, we can't stop doing that. Either in here is the projector, and out there is that's what we're looking at, is the screen of our projections. So when people say, I always get that, they do. Do you see what I mean? So because they believe in it. And so, but majority of things that we get are the things that we don't really like and we don't want. And that's because we're not vibrating at the right vibration for the other hemisphere to open. So what I'm speaking about is when in Buddhism and all those things, when they meditate and stuff like that, we're not meditating in the right on the right vibration enough to be in more love for ourselves. So karma, the law of karma is, if I feel angry with somebody else, I have to feel it first. And that's the law of karma. If I feel frustrated with somebody else, I have to feel it first. If I feel love, I have to feel it first. And so it's about really feeling love for yourself all the time, that calms down the nervous system, that does all those things. Really getting in contact with the chakras, and what do? They heal the body. And so, but we're too far into our left hemisphere. So the things that you learn into, when it says to love yourself, is to truly love yourself. It's not adding something to your body. It's not your body not being good enough. It's not putting things onto your body to say, now I look good. Now I'm going to have, I'm going to walk, change my body in some way by putting things on that are material, putting things in. Because what we're saying is whatever created us isn't good enough. So, and then in the world, as it says, in the world of good and evil, everything good wants to be destroyed by evil. Well, that's what we're doing. That's what's been happening for a long time, but we're following that. We're following, so it's like if when people say, I don't want to go to hell, you're already there. It reminds me of Pirates of the Caribbean. You're already in a nightmare.
Yeah.
And so you can free yourself from the nightmare with practicing, but it can be difficult. So it's like being born into a world of mental illness, which was years ago called evil or demons and things like that, but we call it mental illness. And you're born into that, and then you're doing it, and then you want happiness in it, and you want these things in it because somebody told you where to get them from.
Yeah, because I always thought showing love was about material things.
Yes.
You know, having the latest whatever it was, or like say treating yourself to something, or it was from the outside that you were giving yourself, bringing to yourself, and it's through working with you that it's about looking and treating what you've already got.
Yeah, so you're enough rather than being in a world that's not enough, and every time it's not enough. So it's like nothing's ever good enough in the world. So that the world of chaos is that nothing's ever good enough, and so we're orchestrated to be moved in a certain way. And what I mean by that is that then you don't feel good enough. Like you get a phone and it's not good enough. We're going to upgrade it next year, and it's just all a brainwash that we're not. It's like you're already good enough. The way you were born was good enough. Everything was made whole. Do you see what I mean? It was made as it was made, and it's all good enough. But in the world of good and evil, then if I say it's not good enough, I'm constantly going to be chasing happiness. I'm constantly going to be chasing good enough for me to feel that. Well, when do you actually get to that point? Because we're changing it all the time. So how we change it is like Valentine's Day. So like before I spoke about Christmas, let's look at Valentine's Day. Well, how many people don't feel good enough if they don't have a partner? And then how many people don't feel good enough for the partner that they've got to buy the flowers? So everything's a business. It's always about buying and selling. So we're looking at who is profiting from what I'm doing. And people take it very seriously. And then so things have to be good enough. And then and it's not good enough if I don't do that. If I don't have family around Christmas, it's not good enough. So now I'm going to feel a kind of way. So we're always in the hell consciousness to feel bad and not good enough. And then Mother's Day, am I a good enough parent to get a present this Mother's Day? Or what if I don't, what if I don't have a parent? How am I going to feel then about Mother's Day? So all of these things,
and that you feel bad if you're not a parent, and you feel as if you're not like what you should be.
That's it. And then you have to look who orchestrated these things in the first place. Why am I complying to somebody I've never met that started these things off? How do I know these things are true? Who's going to benefit from these things? Well, who benefits from them? The person that you're buying the stuff from. And then what are you going to do? Well, I've been told you're good enough. You're going to have to prove it again next year. So these things are just on a perpetual wheel of being told we're not good enough, or we're not succeeding enough, or we're not this, and and then we have what's the New Year's resolution, and everything's just to remind you of what failure you are.
Yeah.
So if you were to make something, and it was made of pure love, and it's like, look at that, and somebody else wants to come along and destroy it, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to criticize it. They're going to criticize you. They're going to criticize you. When people are that's not good enough. That's that, and that's that. So that's why it's kind of a war against good and evil, as in terms of saying, this temple that I've got, this holy temple I've got, it's not good enough. So if you're speaking in biblical terms, not religious terms, biblical terms, in terms of good and evil, then everything evil would say would be everything that God made isn't good enough. So you need to do this, and this. And as it said as well, and I'm not a religious person, I'm just cross-referencing that with things you say in science, which I don't really believe in, but ultimately I don't believe in either of them, to be honest. But ultimately, it's when you're looking at things and you're saying, well, if I wanted to destroy beings and control them, then what would I do? I'd constantly have them chasing something to feel a kind of way. So that's what we're doing. And then because if you feel good enough already, what would that do? The society, if you already feel good enough, you don't need anything from it.
Yeah.
What would that do?
It'd put a lot of people out of
business.
Yeah.
So that's why
it's worth money feeling rubbish about yourself.
It's worth a lot of money.
And seeking to try and improve that by buying things or looking at an outside source, even if it's like medication or an operation or something
to make you feel good enough. Then that's why I'm saying, if you're born into a family that's taking drugs, what are you more likely to do? you're more likely to take drugs, even though it's named as medication. And so it's that you're more likely to do the same thing that everybody else is doing. And that ancestral, what we do things then, we trust that our parents knew better, but what if they didn't? But we don't question that. So because we don't question enough, we don't look beyond the veil, we just do as we're told. But we don't actually look and say, actually, ancestrally, are we getting better? Or are we getting worse? We're taken so far away from our humanness now that we're taught that these objects that can't exist without us are now more intelligent than we are. They can never be. They can never be that. But we believe what people tell us because of the way they say it to us.
Yeah.
And so that's why I often say to you, don't believe a word I say, find out for yourself.
Yeah.
Because then it's because we can be taught to look in a certain area. Look at that, it's true, because look at that, look at the evidence there. And it's like, I don't believe it.
And I think that one of the reasons why I struggled with people saying you need to love yourself was my understanding of what that word was and how I'd been brought up. For me, it was about getting presents at Christmas, buying things.
Yes.
You know, yes, I might shout at you, I might smack you, or in other environments I've been in, I might sexually abuse and rape you. But look at this, you know, I'm doing this nice for you, or I've got you this, or I've got you this, or aren't you lucky that? Look at all the presents you've got, look at this and that. And so my view of what love was very materialistic, but very conditional. It wasn't unconditional. Well, you do what I say and you're loved. You don't do as I say, don't love you.
I think that one of the things that's added into love as well is when you go to school and you're programmed with an I or you. So we spend our lives with an I owe you, I owe you, I owe you, and you owe me. So we'll have that. So we love conditionally. So when we say I love you unconditionally, it can be interpreted that when a child goes to school, then subconsciously the child isn't loved enough, so it always wants to make its parents proud. Because I've done good enough then to be deserving of something. And so it becomes under a condition. When you get married, it's under a condition that you're going to stay and make me happy. So you owe me. Well, loving yourself means that you giving it to yourself. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody on the planet, and we're not here for that. Do you see what I mean? It's that realization of instead of going into the external world, I mean, the external world is a projection of everybody's mind. So we're looking at that, and that's why I say that's why it's called matter, because I interpret that as it seems to matter more than your internal world. The loving yourself is staying inside your internal world to put love there yourself. But instead of, because then when you do that, you're not reliant on if somebody doesn't love you, you're going to feel a kind of way. Do you see what I mean? You stop being reliant on being fed, spoon-fed bouts of love that doesn't, it's quite fickle.
Because I can remember my mum saying to me when I was very young, because my behaviour was something she didn't like, I was acting out, and she didn't like that behaviour. She said, you should be grateful that we wanted children because nobody else had put up with you. It was like I wasn't enough, and I was lucky that they'd put up with me, but the norm is you do as you're told, otherwise you're too much and people don't love you. That's how my child thinking was, and that's how I interpreted it, that I'm lucky that they've put up with me, nobody else will, and people will only put up with you if you do what they want you to do and you fit in with them. So my view of love was skew-whiffed.
So if you just capture that then, in that it was skew-whiffed was your view of love, because it helped you along the way to stop loving yourself. Like a child loves themselves when they're born, play with their toes, they their little hands, and then they stop loving themselves because they're taught out of it that you're only worthy of love if you comply with my ego,
Yeah.
with my hell consciousness. So when, like I said before, when a parent says you're getting on my nerves, it's like the child isn't. It's your own mind that's getting on your nerves. It's your ego that's telling you a story. And so let me give you an example of love. Many children now, and as it's gone, this is why we're coming far away from our humanness. There was a lady, and I'm sat on the bus, and she got on the bus with a young child. The child was in the pram, and the whole rain was over on the bus. And so what she did was she pushed the pram this way, so she had the handles, and the child was just staring at the back of the seat. And she had the out of the anger while she's staring at a phone, and that went on for about 40 minutes. She never gave that child any attention whatsoever. And the child was booting the seat in front, and she told her to stop. That's the only attention that she gave, because she was far too interested in the addiction of a phone. And so what do we do when we do that? Well, if you notice that children stare at you, we need eye-to-eye contact as human beings to be validating. So we have eye-to-eye contact with each other, which stimulates the child. That's why the child is always, you might watch children when the parents are addicted. You can see the child staring at the parent because it's wanting to be, it's wanting, needing, and it's part of our development that we need that. We also need skin-to-skin contact to calm down our nervous system. So quite often some parents, when the child makes a noise, it's so they're not disturbed in their ego because they're far too interested in their own addiction, is that they'll give the child something to eat or something to drink to shut them up. And so it's that. So our humanness starts to get shut off. And because we're not taught that, we're just taught to separate from your child. They're going to get on your nerves. We'll look after them because we can program them if we want with all the compliance things. And we'll do that because you're far too busy with doing something else you've been told to do by somebody else, because we're in a world of slavery. And so that's what you're going to do. And then people then stop thinking for themselves and say, well, what would I do without this world like this then? How would I manage?
I get that about people that we're not encouraging people to think for themselves, because last year I did a lecture at a university, and I remember the tutor saying to me, you're going to have to be really basic and spell it out, and because they need spoon feeding, they don't know how to think for themselves. They're used to getting taught.
Yes.
And that made me think,
well, what
we're not encouraging people to wonder and to think about themselves,
because we're taught what to think.
Yeah.
We're not taught how to think. So we're losing the right hemisphere, that part of, and that's why it's 90%. There's only 10% using the right hemisphere, which is usually Buddhists and people like that. So, but ultimately, we're just taken so far away. And when you think about how the world is ill, and you see that people have many addictions. So some people, addicted to coke. You're always putting stuff in the mouth, sweet stuff always going to your mouth. So that's in the frozen oral stage. Every time someone's addicted to a drink, they're in the oral stage. And so that it's like sucking your pacifier. So you don't get past that because you're handed so many things when you're young. Now there's a dummy shut up, there's the food shut up, there's that. When you get older, you start constantly putting things to your mouth. So now you're stuck in the oral stage. And so parts of when, the adult running around, child running around in adult body, they're always in some form of frozen state. And so then they don't want to be human anymore. So they're saying they're this or the whatever. Do you see what I mean? So they're stuck in that. So how far away have we gone? I remember when I was speaking about, because they enslave. And so we normalize as slavery was normalized, and it's normalized. And because we normalize it now, and in our left hemisphere, which is our ego, we enslave animals. So horses have things in the mouth, and it's like, imagine having something in your mouth like that, walking around all day. Well, that's what they did to slaves, and that's what we do to animals. So I remember you saying, I feel a bit awful, because I have a dog. And what would happen if the dog was set free? If all dogs were set free, then what would happen? Well, they'll probably still follow you because they've been programmed so far away from their natural selves that what would you do without? And that's exactly the same question you just asked. We have been taken so far away from our natural selves. How would we survive then without being in this slavery? What
It's
would
like
we
that
do?
thing that I've seen where it's like a chicken that's been in a cage all its life. You open the door, it'll still stay in there.
Yeah, because it's natural instincts that that what our Creator gave us has been so orchestrated into the world of evil now. It's like, so that's why when you watch programs, it's like people think, well, I won't be evil. It's like, well, what's the programs you're watching? What's the programs you're feeding to your children?
Yeah.
What is the food you're
And
feeding to your
that's
children?
what I've learned from you.
Yeah, what is the, if you poison yourself, you're more likely to, how many chemicals are your children eating because you eat them? What are we, well, what would we eat instead? And they don't do you that, they don't do you that, and all of these kind of
don't
stories.
tell me that bit. I don't want to know what's
Yeah.
happened to those animals or what chemicals they've put in them.
Yeah, and the stupid animals, they don't know, and it's like, are there? Or is that because you've been told that?
Yeah.
And it's like, but how many people are eating a dead, mutated, murdered body? And then you tell yourself that you're not evil, because
or a bunch of chemicals that are so poisonous.
Yes.
In other countries they might have been banned, or they know that they cause cancers or this, that, and the other. And I guess,
but we just we have the Stockholm syndrome or willful ignorance, and because we're so programmed with all of this, it's like that's exactly what we're doing. When you watch, something with a noose around its neck, and you saw that years ago in human beings, and then the very people that did it here, you worship them, and so how is that not evil? Are you not?
And that's the stuff that I've started to question, which is about how I'm learning to love myself, is to question what I'm taking in my body, both through the food that I eat, the stuff that I watch on telly, what I read, what I listen to, and and I think what's helped me is I've stopped using the word love about it. It's about respecting myself, and which is not something that I've done before. And it fits better than love to me because of what made skewed connotations with it. Yeah. Respecting and honouring myself seems a lot more doable than somebody going, oh, just love yourself.
But it is to give yourself something good, that's loving yourself, to constantly be interested in being inside of your own body, being interested into, that's loving yourself, because you're putting the attention inside rather than just shutting it up inside to put something in. It's like, shut up with the disturbing feelings and just put something in to just shut it up. It's like, no, I want to validate myself. I want to listen to myself. So every time when you were growing up and you didn't feel validated, it's like, do you validate yourself then? Or were you taught not to?
I was taught not to. I was taught to do something, to shut it up, to stop it.
And isn't that what other people are doing then? So all these people that you see, or such as the people in the NHS and things like that you speak about, are they just giving you the same amount of love that they can show because that's how they grew up? And so we can only offer somebody something that we have ourselves. So if somebody has criticism inside of them, then they're more likely to be critical, because everybody is a walking billboard for themselves. So if nasty comes out of somebody's mouth, then they're a walking billboard for themselves.
And that's another learning thing, a huge learning thing that I've gained, is about how people are with me.
Is how they are with themselves.
Yeah, and has got nothing to. The majority of the time has got nothing to do with me whatsoever.
It's to do with them.
That's a really big learning curve, because I thought I was responsible for everything.
No, because that's it. If you don't love yourself, you're less likely to love somebody else. You can only love yourself others in the same way that you love yourself, really. So, whatever I give to you, that's why birds of a feather, as I say, flock together. Whatever I give to you, whatever I give to myself, I'm more likely to give to you. And quite often we believe stories that we're told But how do we know? We know they say, oh, they ate this years ago. How do we know that they ate that years ago?
Mm.
How do we know that? Well, so and so said, but how do you know that they're telling the truth? Isn't it that we're seeing things in a way from our own frame of reference or to benefit us? Isn't it that if I'm doing something, I'm more likely to believe that it's okay to do it?
Yeah, and in it's just coming to mind, light bulb moment, whatever we call it, that one of the things that is always sort of like said that I've heard being used against me as a justification for carrying on like that is, well, it happened to me and it never did me any harm.
Yes.
Because you don't love yourself enough to look at the harm. You're just repeating it.
Yes, exactly. It's just like Sunday lunch, or like people believing this is genetic and that's genetic. It's like, how do you know?
Yeah.
Because somebody told me, but how do you know?
It's like there's a big elephant in the room, but it's not you're ignoring it. It's like you don't even know it's there, but there is.
Yeah.
But you're just not looking that way just in case.
And that's what we don't do. We have willful, like I say, willful ignorance or willful blindness. We don't look at. We normalise. Like I remember, I watched something and people had normalised having a bad stomach, and it's like, well, why don't you look at that? I can show with some form of medication because I don't want to look.
Yeah.
And that's what it is that we don't want to look. So because we don't want to look, we don't want to do anything about it. That means that that's the degree to being interested in loving myself.
Yeah, because I had blood tests done last week and I got the results and it was, you're deficient in this, this and this. Here's some tablets to rectify that. Not why are you deficient in those?
Yes.
It was just, there's your prescription. Aye.
Yes.
So,
and it's taking something constantly from the outside and putting it in and doing things like that. So we're not loving ourselves. Well, the matter is we're loving the objects around us. That object makes me feel like that. Oh, please give me that. I'll be so happy. I'll be so happy. That'll feel great inside because we've got a story of it then.
Yeah.
That object. And then when you lose the story, yeah, and that's the same, everything's an object. So I love that, and then it'll bore me for a bit, and then I'll need something else. And quite often we do that with each other. I love you forever. We'll go and do our vows, and I can't stand you, I want a divorce. So it's a love, but it's not the love. When you really truly love yourself, you never say that to that kind of love because it's higher than the ego love that we have. Are you okay to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Learning lots.
Yes.
Thank you.
Me too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.